So we were on the way to the midwife, who is 2 hours away, and we got 15 minutes down the road. And the Ruach just came upon me, and I was like, we got to turn around. We're going back home. This baby's going to be delivered at home. And Yah, he is so faithful and good. It was a miracle to witness.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Abby and Paul, for joining us on today on Yahudah Living as we talk about home birth. We are so excited. Super excited to have this opportunity to spend with you on today. Now, before we get started, I want you to take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with you, Abby. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I came from a big family, and growing up, I always wanted to have a big family, but then I kind of got off track with my faith, and Yahuah brought me back, and I'm able to have my family now that I always wanted.
Okay.
And so I just am overjoyed to spend this time with you guys today.
Outstanding. And what about you, Paul? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Korean descent. I was born in Washington State, and Abby and I met while we were both kind of in our travels in the state of Colorado. And I think it was there that really brought us together. And at the time, both of us didn't really see it that way. But, after we separated and time passed by, I think Yah reunited us. And at the time, it was hard to see why he was doing it. But now that time has passed and we can look back and see how he's kind of worked in both of our lives. And now we have two beautiful children, and, Yah is just too good to us. So.
Outstanding. I love the way you all looked at one another. That was so precious. So precious. Outstanding. Well, he knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, right? Hallelujah. Well, as I thought about our time together, going back through the 9 months of pregnancy, Abby and Paul, and knowing that you are going to have a home birth without any medical intervention, it has to be a little daunting, but you did it. You did it. Was there ever a time that you thought to yourself, maybe we need to go to the hospital? I don't think I want to do that home birth. Did you ever think that during the pregnancy?
Yeah. So during my first pregnancy with Avaya, I had a good friend who was helping me along, and the plan was to have a home birth. And then kind of last minute, I decided I'm going to go to the hospital. So I had that experience. And so the second time there was no, I did not want to go through what I went through the first time. Not saying that you couldn't probably have a good experience, but my own experience was not pleasant. And so I think Yah revealed to me through that I was seeking after my own, I guess I liked the fact that people thought what I was doing was normal. And so with the second one, with Yoshiyah, our plan was to see a midwife. And when it got down to the last minutes, like a few months before, about a month before, we were like, no, we're just going to have the baby at home. And then the day of, I was thinking, I'm going to totally change my mind and we're going to go to the midwife. So we were on the way to the midwife, who is 2 hours away, and we got 15 minutes down the road. And the Ruach just came upon me, and I was like, we got to turn around. We're going back home. This baby's going to be delivered at home. And Yah, he is so faithful and good. It was a miracle to witness,
Wow. Really? Okay. So Avaya was supposed to be a home birth, but then you decided hospital birth.
Right.
Okay. And was that in the middle or was that towards the end of the pregnancy?
It was towards the end. It was around 34 weeks. And so they were really, they didn't understand at the hospital, with that medical side, they didn't understand why I had waited so long to receive medical care. But we had been educating ourselves and reading books. My best friend was pregnant at the same time. So Yah provided this beautiful relationship where we were just building each other up and praying and learning. And I just kind of backed out. I think fear overtook me, and there was a lot revealed to me through that fear for my own faith journey. But with this experience, it was, the home birth aspect of it. It felt so pure. It felt like my trust had grown since the first one, and I'll praise to Yah, but he really had to kind of steer me.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So Avaya was a planned home birth, but diverted at the end. Yoshiyah was a planned home birth, but then it's like, let's go to the midwife. And then you started that drive, and the father said, no, go back home. I got this.
Yes. And that was a blessing too, because my midwife was nothing like the midwives that I had seen in the hospital setting. She was a donation, faith-based midwife. And she actually ended up coming over to the house after the baby was born with Yoshiyah. And she was like a mother, she was doing the things that it wasn't, I would say, medical per se. She was like cleaning up after me and nurturing me in a way that you would expect a midwife to. But the midwives that I had seen at the hospital setting, I would say they were more comparable to like a doctor in the way that they approached me. I didn't feel a personal connection to them. Not that you couldn't with some doctors, but.
Right. Okay. All right. So with Yoshiyah, we had the midwife, and the midwife, what I'm hearing you say, came on the back end and was more of a support and helping to do those things that you would have normally done. And even, Paul would have normally done, but they were there as a support to give you all that time to bond with the baby. Wow. How beautiful. That is beautiful. So tell me this, knowing what you know about home birth, what would you most regret not having had a home birth? And that's a question for both of you all.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is being in a setting that is very familiar and comfortable.
Okay.
Because our first child, Avaya, was born in the hospital, and obviously we had never been in that setting, and it's just not as comfortable, right?
Okay. Yeah.
As the husband, I just need to trust in Yah that he will give Abby the strength to deliver. And for me, it's not as, I just feel it's not as difficult for me to have that faith. How am I trying to say here?
Well, with Avaya's pregnancy, I actually stopped contracting. So I had, my water had broke, but they didn't know that. And so I stopped contracting when I got to the hospital, and they were going to send me home. And I actually was ready to deliver, with Yoshiyah. I was in the peace of my home. So I didn't even know if I was in labor, really. I was, and I've had a baby. So my contractions were, just really comforted me during that time. And then by the time that they got so intense that I knew I was in labor, he was coming. And So that was really nice. I didn't have the obstacle of kind of settling back down again.
Okay.
Also, another thing that comes to mind is I think I would have regret if we had gone back to a hospital is I guess the intimacy, right? It was just you, me, and Avaya. And it wasn't a person I had never met before in my life. When we were at the hospital, the midwife there had brought in other nurses as well, almost like a sightseeing tour. It was very strange, and we were just out to myself. I wasn't very outspoken at that time because I didn't want to insult anybody, but I was just thinking to myself, like, why is she bringing, like 3 or 4 other people in to literally look at my wife and look at what's going on. It was just very strange.
There was a nurse that was training. So one nurse would check me, and then another nurse was training, and so she would check me during my active labor. And that was when you're in the moment, I guess we could more. It was like, what's going on? I was just praying at that point.
Hallelujah. So what about you, Abby? Thinking about that moment, what would you have most regret not having a home birth from what you've experienced?
Yeah, definitely agree with Paul. The amount, the intimacy, the fact that we got to have this like set apart experience, like we were set apart, and that it was Kodesh to me. And it was not like I said, we were on the way to the midwife. And so it feels like to me in my own faith that he wanted that for us. And he was, not letting me know that my contractions were contractions just so that he could give me that blessing. And praise Yah, it was truly the most miraculous experience. And it was birth. And most of the time it's supposed to be this painful, horrible thing, but it was faith building for sure.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think we kind of talked about this already as far as what were your deciding factors that home birth was the way your children would be born. Because that was the deciding factor for Avaya. And it just got diverted towards the end. But what was that said, this is the way we're going? What brought you to that place?
Yeah, well, I have a dear friend who she was kind of just someone to speak encouragement into my life. I think a lot of people can be very fear-based in their advice. And when we digest that and chew that, that's kind of what we become. And when we digest and chew encouragement and truth in life, that's what we become. And I can see how my faith has grown from Avaya and Yoshiyah in terms of just relying on Yah. Like I said, Yah was leading me with Avaya to have a home birth. But I remember almost like being flattered that I could tell, I don't know if that's the right word, but being able to say like, oh, I have a doctor's appointment, and it seems so normal. So I liked the fact that it seemed normal. And I think I missed out on a lot because of that, that wanting to conform to other worldly kind of standards instead of this Kodesh experience that Yah wants for us. Because with Yoshiyah, I think about when the Messiah, when Yahusha said to us, the beginning of birth pains. And I related that a lot to my experience. And within that experience, when those birth pains came, I wanted to divert. But afterwards, I just heard the Ruach say, don't have these expectations. Don't have these, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what I have for you. and he had this goodness for me that I didn't expect. I was expecting pain and just 2 hours of gruesome pain. Like with Avaya, I was laying on my back in the hospital and I tried to take my foot down and my midwife grabbed my foot and she put it back. And I told her that I didn't want to birth that way. It was very aggressive and I didn't feel like I had the freedom to move about. And with this home birth, I was expecting that when it got to be the hardest time, I was expecting this 2 more hours of just trying to push out the baby. But instead, it was within, I want to say like 15 to 20 minutes, at least a half hour. And it was just smooth sailing. I mean, it was awesome.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Anything from you, Paul, when you think about that question?
Yeah, I just, for me, I think the biggest thing was after that first birth in the hospital, after witnessing the practices that were going on, and then also having the knowledge of the different, vaccines and things that they try to put, like get your signature on, and like they kind of almost make you feel bad if you don't sign these things. And I just didn't, the vibe, there was a terrible vibe that I got from the hospital. And, before we even had this birth, we were coming to the truth about, what these hospitals really are doing. And that's, to make profit at the end of the day at the expense of other people. And with the C-sections and how prevalent they are, and Abby, I know you can talk a little bit more about that, but I was just going to conclude with that is just the whole setting and practices. I knew that Yah would take care of us if we trust in Him, and so for me, it was a really easy decision. Ultimately, I wanted Abby to be where she was going to be most comfortable.
So awesome. Did you have a smooth pregnancy? And tell me about prenatal care, vitamins, was any of those checkups? What did you do for all of that?
Yeah, so we were educating ourselves with books and I was watching a lot of videos and just trying to glean from, people's stories. And we really didn't want, I learned certain things after the fact. Like for instance, I had been prescribed basically an iron pill.
Okay.
And later on, I was reading like more of a naturalist pregnancy book, and it was saying that it can cause miscarriages. Mm-hmm. And during my pregnancy with Avaya, I didn't end up taking that. We picked it up from the pharmacy, and it was like Yah kept me from that, and I'm so grateful because upon further inspection, it could have harmed my baby. Mm-hmm. Even maybe some would disagree with that. That was the knowledge that was provided to us. So I think we learned more with our second pregnancy for sure. But I was swimming a lot with my first pregnancy, and that felt really good. Kind of be light in the water, because during pregnancy sometimes you can feel so heavy. Uh-huh. And I don't know, I love swimming too. So that for me really worked out well.
Okay. So no prenatal vitamins, no checkups. How did you hear the baby's heartbeat? What did you do there to just, other than feeling the baby move, what did you do there with Vaya or Yoshiyah?
Yeah, so I kind of had to educate myself more on that process too. Originally, we got a stethoscope and we were going to do it that way. But when plans diverted with Avaya, we ended up having to get an ultrasound and kind of go the more traditional route. But with Yoshiyah, I knew I didn't want to do kind of the invasive ultrasound, especially early on. But even the midwife that I saw, we had an option of using either a stethoscope or the other choice that's kind of also a sound wave.
Okay.
And she was really gentle. She would use a stethoscope, and I really appreciated that. So we did get to hear his heartbeat,
Okay.
and her heartbeat as well. But if I could go back and not use those things on Avaya, I think, she was healthy, and it was probably unnecessary.
Okay. That sounds great. Let me ask you this, and I didn't ask any of the other couples this, but I thought about it the other day. Did you have cravings during the pregnancy, or is that just a myth? And Paul, did you have cravings?
Actually, I have a very funny story.
Okay.
Very funny story about this. So we were living in Washington, and we had just found out Abby had gotten pregnant, and I had called our cell phone service. Bear with me. This will make sense in a second.
Okay.
I had called Verizon, who was our cell phone provider at the time, I think it was to switch to cancel our...
To join our accounts.
Because
we had just got married.
Right. And the customer service representative, he was doing a great job switching me over. And there was a moment during our conversation where I think I told him that my wife was pregnant, and he started to ask me if I was having sympathy cravings, because he had a similar experience when his wife was pregnant, and he had sympathy cravings, and that was the first time that I had heard that term.
So that's how Paul would get his ice cream while I was pregnant. He would just blame it on my pregnancy.
And so he called it sympathy cravings.
Yeah, that's what he called it. And I had asked him, what is that? I have no idea what that means. He explained it to me as, when your wife's pregnant, you start to crave foods.
You sympathize with her, and
that she would want or something. This was a couple years ago, so I can't quite remember what he said. But
that's funny.
I did not really have any cravings. No.
Okay.
Except for kimchi, because I like kimchi.
Okay.
He always craves that, though. That's not necessarily a craving.
It's not a craving. It's just a regular piece of my diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I had cravings.
Okay.
So if it is a thing, I will say, I've heard that, and I think it is nice sometimes to kind of nurture yourself in that way if something is really yummy to you. But I think if you're going to give yourself an excuse when you're pregnant, then that can kind of lead to sometimes maybe not choosing the best healthy foods because you're giving yourself that pregnancy excuse.
Right.
Which may be okay, every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't have to be super strict on yourself, but you're taking care of your baby. So it's a good practice to get used to.
Exactly. Yeah. I just thought that was interesting thought as we were talking about home birth. And it's always been a myth that, we have cravings, and so we get away with whether it's ice cream or cake or whatever the case may be. And then I started thinking, well, is that really true? And was it part of the medication that, we were taking, the vitamins, the prenatal vitamins? Ain't no telling what's in all of that, right? And so it's interesting. That's something I'll ask other parents, did they have cravings? And was that just a myth, really?
It's funny because when my mom was pregnant with me, I can attest that she definitely did have cravings. When she would drive out to her sisters in the country, she would stop her car and literally eat dirt, physically eat dirt off of the side of the road because she had such a mineral deficiency.
Wow.
So in that way, but I don't know about cakes don't really have a whole lot of minerals. So I don't know.
None. None at all. All right. So it's the day. Okay. And you realize you're in labor. Walk me through the day of the birth. Walk me through the day of the birth of your beautiful son, Yoshiyah. Take me through it.
Well, I went to bed early that night because I think your body, you're just prepping. It's your body just goes into that mode. And I think if you go with your natural state, then, I think I went to bed at like 6:00 that night.
Wow. Okay.
And I slept with a heating pad just because I kind of felt a little bit crampy. So I had a heating pad and I was kind of, making sure my tummy was warm. And that's why when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't sure if it was still like cramps or if the baby was just kicking my stomach really hard.
Okay.
Well, it was contractions. So he didn't really know because I didn't really know. And my midwife didn't really know when we called her what was going on. Okay. And so he was like, it could just be cramps. My dad, was like, well, just go to the midwife just in case it's not cramps. And my midwife was like, well, you could be in labor. And I was definitely in labor. But like I said, I got to relax at home. So it made it really.
She didn't seem like she was in that much pain. Okay. To me, I remember thinking if it seemed like she just had a stomach ache. Okay. Just a small annoyance of some kind, and so I didn't really think that she was in labor. But then, 10 minutes later, or was it the whole morning? Or
it was the whole morning.
It was the whole morning.
I don't think he really believed me. He was kind of like, you're just wanting,
you just want to have this baby.
Well, I was under the impression that we were still going to have this home birth, but it was literally last second.
I hadn't even packed bags for the midwife because we were like, we're going to stay home. Yeah. And then I had talked to my dad and he was like, just go, and I think people want the best for you and they are basing their experience off of their own experience, right? With me, my mom, she was strapped down to a hospital bed and I was a C-section baby and they cut her stomach open and she wasn't numb. So she felt the whole thing. And wow. It was such a traumatic experience. And my dad, they've had 6 children. So having someone there that has the medical expertise is necessary in his eyes. Whereas with us, my first experience, I felt like everybody was getting in the way. If I was running the marathon of pregnancy, they were the hurdles that I were not supposed to be there. Wow. With Yoshiyah, like I said, it was just like smooth sailing. I was asking for help, but it was help from our Father that I was asking for.
Yeah. So she had started having her labors and the morning went by and we had finally decided, okay, we'll head to the midwives because we just if I had total faith in Abby and in Yah to deliver this baby, and if Abby wanted to go to the midwives, I would support that. And so we decided we'll just head to the midwives. And on the way, 10 minutes down the road, we had passed by our neighbor.
Who has 7 children.
Okay. She has had how many home births?
Well, she actually had a baby in the house that we're renting.
Wow.
And she had a home birth there.
In the same room, right?
Yeah, in the same room. And she said, if you do go into labor and you need somebody, I'll come down. Yeah. So when we saw her as we were leaving, she was coming to get water at our house. They get water from the well outside. It was like a sign. You know what I mean? It was like,
we locked eyes as we drove by and I looked at Abby and I said, I don't know. I think we have to turn around now.
He did. And I was like, nope, we're going to just keep going to the midwife. And I was just kind of battling in my mind, like, do we go? And I was praying, and then I was set on going to the midwife. And then I thought about having labor in the car.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, it was like, whoop, turn around. And I'm so glad we did, because I would have had labor in the car.
Wow. So, okay. So we've turned around. We get back to the house 10 minutes later. Tell us about your setup, and just tell us about Yoshiyah coming to grace you all.
So Lisa, our neighbor, she was still there, or you called her, or she was
No,
still there?
she had left.
Yeah.
But no, as we were coming back, she was leaving, and we told her, hey, Abby's in labor. Do you think you could come over whenever you have some free time to give us a little bit of assistance? And she said yes. And so that definitely, Yah sent her.
Yes.
I mean,
one of the things that I
was
concerned about was Avaya. I didn't know if my birthing in front of her was going to be traumatic for her. And I didn't want her to have that trauma, It was quite the opposite. She was totally fine until Yoshiyah came out, and then she cried, I think, just out of shock, almost like wow, there's a baby. And I don't think it was a sad cry, but more of just like maybe even joy at the time. I don't know.
I bet the physical, just seeing the baby, with blood on it, and it's just so raw.
Yeah.
And she's just a year and a half old. I think for her it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
Wow.
An amazing experience, I'm sure. Yeah.
Before I had children, I would watch people's videos, and their other children would be there, and I thought to myself, I would never want my other children in the room while I was having a baby. And I think that was Yah answering that heart question for me too, because not only was it nice to have Avaya in the room, but it was a family experience. We got to all be together, and that was really nice. So by the time we got back, we had a bathtub set up, but the water was cold.
That's my fault. I did want to empty it, but I think we had decided we were going to the midwife, so I was like, I'm just not going to empty it. But then when we turned back to the house, it was, the water's still cold, and so it was.
But that was another answered prayer, because at the hospital, Yah made a way for me able to get into the tub, which they weren't going to let me, and I felt like it was like saving grace, like I needed that bathtub. And then I would always tell people that, like, the tub is just so nice. But then with Yoshiyah, it was like I didn't even want the tub. And Yah was like, you don't need the tub. You need me. It wasn't the tub that was comforting you. It was me that was comforting you. So with the second one, being out of the tub and still being okay, I was like, wow, like, I guess the tub wasn't the deciding factor.
Wow.
I was just at home with some towels down, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't like, there wasn't candles and like a nice setup. It was just like, get some towels, throw them on the ground, and yeah, not even enough towels,
What'd you say? It wasn't a cute setup. It was just put them down. So there was no ambiance music and lullabies going.
No. Even though that's beautiful too, but it was beautiful without all that,
Exactly. Well, that's a beautiful experience that Avaya had to go through, and it's something that it'd be interesting if she actually remembers it years and years to come. Once she gets older, that she remember that experience of seeing her little brother be born. That's awesome. So did Yoshiyah just come flying out, or did you have to pull him out? Tell us about that part.
Yeah, well, I was expecting this 2-hour push, like with Avaya. So in my mind, I was like, wow, like, yeah, I was like, I don't want to do this, And after that thought, everything kind of just eased up. I did one push, and the water broke, and I knew the head was out. And I said to Paul, is the head out? And my mom was calling at the same time. So he's like, yes, the head is out. He went and answered the phone and he's telling my mom, I can see the head. And she's like on her way. And she's like, oh, wow, the baby's like really here. And there was a calmness. And it was like everything, it was like I was not even in labor. I was just there in the head and there was a calmness. And then all of a sudden it was like one push and he was out and Paul caught him.
Yeah, I had returned. So I saw the head and I was like, wow, the head's out. And I rushed over to answer the phone.
That's what I want to understand. Why you leave with the head out and just answer the phone? Who does that?
But my mom, everybody was really worried because we weren't, my sister was like, call the ambulance, and we weren't worked up. We were calm. We were good, but
that is so funny.
Well, I think in my head, I was thinking, oh, she's still got a little ways to go. Because, with my experience with Avaya, she, once her head was out, it took another hour.
Oh, yeah. Her head came out so elongated because I didn't want to tear and I was on my back. So the midwife, she was like, she was trying to pull her out. And I stopped in mid-labor with Avaya and I said, are you pulling on her? And she was like, no. And I was like, yes, you are. And you need to stop. You're not going to pull my baby out. I'm pushing my baby out. You need to just wait.
All right. There you have it. Wow.
That was the only time I was able to voice myself in that, it was like, I was like in the middle of a contraction. And she's like, use your contractions. I was having a contraction and I seriously I didn't use my contraction. I sat up and I was like, listen, you can't pull my baby out when
I thought she was pushing her.
No, she was pulling out.
Oh, right.
She was doing something that I just didn't feel comfortable.
And you wanted her to stop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you ran to the phone. You seen Yoshiyah's
head.
Right. You ran to the phone. Tell mama, he's here. He's here. Now, did you know what he was at the time?
No.
No, of course. No, you didn't. Okay, so the baby's here. We see a head. We don't know what it is yet, but we see a head. And you ran back to the baby. Ran back. Yep. So tell me what happened then.
Yeah, so like Abby had said, she had transitioned into this. I mean, it was like just a calmness.
Wow.
I mean, like the previous hour, or it was like you were in labor for like less than an hour.
Yeah,
or like hard labor.
Wow.
Like the labor where she was actually in agony and I could tell she was in labor. And when the head came out and I returned back after answering the phone, I mean, she was just, like looking around, just hanging out, I could see a total peace, right, from like the agony that she had just been in. And I said, I knew that, something.
He said you got over a hump.
It was very visual, and I could sense she had gone over a big hump. And literally 5 seconds after I'd said that, I think he just pushed, and he slid out like on a water slide, just slid out.
It happened really quick,
and he was slippery too, so I almost dropped him. But like I had to juggle him a little bit.
Is that right?
And I remember holding him, and I was just just in awe. And I hadn't even noticed. I didn't even look to see what gender. Right?
Really?
I was just holding him, just in awe, like wow, like the umbilical cord's like still there, and like he's so small. He was like 5 pounds, 6 ounces. And then finally, like a few seconds later, I saw, his manhood, and I was like, that's a boy.
Yeah, he was really happy because we got our girl and our boy.
That's funny to say. You were just in awe, but not even noticing what gender.
Right.
It was.
I noticed right away. I was like, oh, it's a little boy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is beautiful. So how long did you keep Yoshiyah connected to you, Abby? Or did you cut the umbilical cord immediately?
No, we had learned that from our research with Avaya. That was the plan, was to not cut, right away. And at the hospital with Avaya, the midwife, she had assured me that it was okay to cut right away, and this is why. And it really, looking back on it, is disappointing because I don't think that, if I have my choice, even if it was ready, it's not necessary. It's not like a medical thing where it needs to be disconnected. So to have that time to just have shalom and pray and be grateful and thankful and rejoice. Instead, it was distractions. It was, let's do this, and then we got to do this, and then, and I don't think that was necessary. So with Yoshiyah, our neighbor came back over, our helper. Then she helped us eventually just tie the knot.
Okay.
And then a few hours later, when my midwife showed up, she did cut it. And by that time, I think I had already ate and, got water in me and done some more things that were seemed more important, I guess.
That's awesome. So with the placenta, did you all do anything special with it? Because a lot of times, and I'm sure you probably read how people encapsulate, dry it out, encapsulate it, bury it, do all kinds of things with it, because that's where Yoshiyah lived and was nourished for 9 months. What did you all do, if anything?
It's still in our freezer.
We're waiting for a special instructions from Yah.
Okay.
So our midwife was saying the same thing to us because I was just going to discard it. And so she kind of made me think oh, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should give it some more time. So we put it in the freezer.
Okay.
And I know some people, they have really creative ideas of what to do with it. We have dogs, so we can't bury it outside or anything. So I think we'll probably just end up discarding it. But, I am grateful that Yah made our bodies to make a placenta. And, I'm grateful. I just don't feel any, he's being nourished by Yah in our world. I'm totally sorry. I'm horrible with my words right now. But, yeah, we're just going to discard it, I think.
Okay. All right. Now, like I said, you can, dry it out, dehydrate it, dry it completely out, and then grind it down into a powder and take it as a pill. And that's, put it in your smoothie, it's nourishment.
I've heard that. I don't know. It just seems like I'm not trying to judge what other people do, because I think if it's nutritious, that makes sense. But to me, it just seems like I don't want to eat something that was in my body. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I had someone else. Someone else said that it served its purpose, and it's time to let it go. And I was like, okay, I can see that too. So it's pretty interesting. But that's good. It should something come up and a creative thing that someone shares with you all, you have it to do with it.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So let's talk about lactation. What was that process for you? Did it work for you? Because it doesn't always work for everyone. Did it work for you?
Yes. Praise Yah. We saved a lot of money and a lot of time cleaning bottles. I know that some people, they're worried that the rest will look differently, that there'll be a change that way. But praise Yah that he made us so efficient. I can just roll over in the middle of the night. I don't have to get up, and I feel for the women that do, because that's a lot of extra work, and it's already pregnancy and birth is already so much work.
Yeah.
So yes, very grateful that lactation has worked, and it actually stopped. So when I got pregnant, I only lactated for maybe the first 3 months of my pregnancy with Yoshiyah, and then my milk dried up. So she was switched over, and then when I started lactating again with him, I started breastfeeding her again. So
Okay, good.
I'm breastfeeding them both again now. So
well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that worked out perfect, didn't it?
yeah.
That worked out perfect. Wow. Thank you so much for taking us through the beautiful journey of both Ashaya and Yoshiyah. And I love those names. Those are awesome names. But thank you for taking us through that journey. Let me ask you this. PPD, postpartum depression, is real. Okay. It's real in most people. Did you experience it? And if so, tell me how it impacted you and what support did you lend, Joseph, to Abby?
Yeah, so I completely agree. I think that from what I see is if you didn't have support, especially like another woman, like my mom came and stayed for a week.
Okay.
And I needed that. I wanted Paul there, of course, but my mom offers something else that he can't. And I think that's why my mom was so happy to be included, that she got to come and be around the new baby. And so it was a blessing for me. It was a blessing for Yoshiyah. It was a blessing for her. And I think that's how Yah operates, is he knew when he created these family structures and these communities of our family, even in the faith, that when we have the support and the love of others, we're able to function through life. But when we don't, we cannot function without each other.
Okay. And so did you find any place where you didn't want to be around Yoshiyah? You needed time away from him. Did you experience anything like that?
I didn't. Praise Yah. With Avaya and Yoshiyah, I think because of my struggle previously in my life, I had experienced a lot of loneliness.
Okay.
And so when Yah gave me Paul, it was like, wow, I get to have a husband in my life. And then when he gave me my babies, it was like, I was just kind of overjoyed that I was given these gifts. And I think too, like health wise, we're in a position where I was able to eat healthy foods, praise Yah.
Okay.
And get some exercise. And I think those things affect us too, because what they're putting in foods and, all the poisons that are out there and the frequencies that are out there. I feel really blessed that I had some of the resources that enabled me to be healthier.
Exactly. Wow. That's beautiful. And I am so glad that you did not have to experience the PPD throughout and after, but we recognize to those who are listening, it is real. And so when that is occurring, it's important, and we'll be talking about it in another episode about what to look for, when a woman or even a man is going through PPD, postpartum depression, and to recognize it is real and it's not, they're joking around. They just want attention or something like that. So we want to share and expose that a little bit more. So what advice would you share with a first-time couple or a single mother in labor and deciding to do it at home? What is one piece of advice which you all share with them?
I think having connections with people of the faith who you can talk to about pregnancy, even like this series, educating yourself and forming like supportive bonds, because the emotional aspect of pregnancy is just as real as the physical. And it's a lot, you're going from just taking care of yourself, maybe, and your husband, to someone being totally reliant. But it's a lesson of how we are to be with Yah. So it ends up being this wonderful revelation, but it definitely can seem overwhelming when you think it's all on you, but it really is all on him always. He's got us all.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And he created this machine here to do creative things, amazing things. And, you all allowed him to use this body to, birth an amazing baby, birth, Yoshiyah. That's beautiful. What would you share, Paul, to a husband whose wife has made this decision? They made this decision together. What is that one piece of advice you would share with them? Him.
I would say, I think prayer is big, because ultimately the husband doesn't have much control over the birthing process. Yes, I'm there for her more, for support, but ultimately I feel as if I didn't do much,
Okay.
and I would say, being in prayer is vital, for everyone, but especially for the husband when they're going through that season of pregnancy and birth, because otherwise I think it'd be hard to have faith that your father will really pull through for you guys, and he's the one that will provide and take care of you. So and then also another piece of advice is just do everything that your wife tells you to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just follow her orders.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So what does that space look like, Abby, when you're not being a mother, when you're not being a wife, when you're not cleaning, and it's just what you want to do? What do we find you doing?
Yah has given me this beautiful season of, it's okay, he's hungry. Of reading my Bible. I kind of came out of the Christian faith and not to say that I'm out of it, but to the doctrines that I was taught before in my youth, not keeping the law and stuff. I've been able to listen to people and fellowship with people, like sermons and stuff like that to get information. But it wasn't until recently that that the Ruach came upon me and has given me a season of reading my Bible.
Okay.
So it seemed so difficult to me before, and now it's like it's just coming to me, and I think that's how I know like this is my season to be in the Word, and so I'm really, really grateful for that. But yeah, not a whole lot of downtime,
I know.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, especially for someone that has experienced loneliness in their life. I was at a point where it was like my life was so much in shambles that I didn't really know what was going to become of my life. And it was more of a struggle day to day. And now it's like having gone from loneliness to that fulfillment, I can appreciate it because I know it's better than that,
Right. Yeah.
Even if it seems like a lot at times,
Yeah.
It's better than that.
Yeah. And Paul, when you're not being a husband, when you're not being a father, when you're not working, when you're not doing anything, what is Paul doing in that time?
So I like to sleep.
Okay.
So sometimes I like to take naps. But
he doesn't really sleep all that much, which is it's funny that he says that, but I wake him up, he goes to bed really late and I wake him up pretty early.
Well, I feel like I go through seasons of going to bed late versus going to bed early. It's like, I don't know, sometimes when I'm getting into the Word more, I tend to stay up late, and then I go down like some rabbit holes of like coming to the truth in some areas, and how I'm sure you understand how that goes.
Uh-huh.
But we also like to go hiking with our dogs and our kids.
Okay.
We we transitioned over to these barefoot shoes a couple of years ago because we've been trying. At least for myself, I've been trying to strengthen my feet and my ankles because of years of rolling them and spraining them and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think doing that, wearing those type of shoes and going on hikes has really helped to improve the health of my lower body, and then it probably transitions to the whole body.
Okay. Well, that sounds awesome. So having just that quiet time, having that space and that peace, even if you're just sleeping, that's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, we thank you so much. Beautiful. Oh, hi, Yoshiyah. Hi, he is so beautiful. Is there a lullaby song you sing to him?
Sometimes I just sing Shalom on repeat.
Oh, really? That's awesome. That is awesome.
I need to do that more though.
Yeah.
I think he likes it.
Awesome. Is there anything else that we have not spoken about that you want to share? I know we've talked about a lot. Anything at all?
No, I think we hit what we needed to express, just you can do it if you're wanting a home birth and you're on the fence, yes, definitely prayer and just make sure that you're not deciding things out of fear, because he promised not to forsake us, and that's in this experience too.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for carving out your time to speak with us on Yahudah Living. It has been a pleasure visiting with you all and have an opportunity to meet Avaya and Yoshiyah. So thank you so much. What we're going to do is get a picture, bring Avaya in the picture, and we're going to get a picture with her. Okay, so let me see. Look at the camera. Okay. Let me do it again. Hold on a second. Let me do it again. Okay, 1, 2, smile. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, a huge Toda Rabbah. Thank you very much to Paul and Abby for sharing a very transparent home birth story that we pray is helpful to those viewing and especially those considering and praying about having a home birth. And thank you as well to Avaya and Yoshiyah, also to our host, Sister Marsha. Truly, children are an inheritance from Yahuah, and the fruit of the womb is a reward. Tehillim, Psalm chapter 127, verse 3. Well, we look forward to seeing you in the next home birth series. Share this with a family or friend that you know is considering a home birth. Shalom.